All right, everybody. I pressed record. So this is on Zoom because Facebook was not working. So the lovely Nicole is here and I will share it after on Facebook. All right, Nicole. So how is your day so far?
It's been beautiful, thanks. And
Beautiful.
yeah, love getting to connect and do this fun work together.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you a couple of questions. Let's dive into right now. So how
Sounds
long
good.
have you been doing this? And let us know a bit about your story first. Yeah. Let us know how your story.
Well, yeah, in 2008, I was bedridden for a year, and the doctors were like, you just need to rest more. But I felt my energy leaving my body. And, I rested. It was great. But then, yeah, it just kept going out. And it got to the point where I felt like I was in my head, but then my head started to hurt. Like thinking started to hurt. And so then was leaving there too. And about that time, people had suggested some energy work, but what that entailed that I was invited to for my first energy work was electrodes strapped to your forehead, your wrists, and your ankles.
Wow.
And by the time I was like really headed out and it hurt to think, I was like, you know what? I'm not using this body. Strap electrodes on it. Do whatever you want. So I was desperate, ready for something to work. And that one session of energy work, all of a sudden I felt the energy reverse directions. It was starting to come into my body, and it was so painful to be in my body.
Oh, wow.
But that 1 hour session flipped the switch. I started inhabiting my body again. Everything started to heal and come back to life. And I had two more sessions, so a total of 3 hours, and it was completely well. I was astounded by what it did. The person gave me Donna Eden's energy medicine book, and I studied that. I'm like, okay, so I can do everything this computer can do, this computer program, and just voraciously studied energy work ever after, because that was so fascinating to me. So that was my glimpse and, such a felt experience for me
And that was in
that,
2008, you said, right?
yeah, I just dove into energy work and learning everything about it ever after. And that was when I started my yoga journey too, because my body was so weak. Uh, 5 minutes of yoga was all I had the strength for after those three energy work sessions,
Mm.
I started building up my strength and went on a fun yoga journey after that I still love yoga and teach. And yeah, when it was something I always saw in my clients, no matter who they were, how they were raised, everyone had sacral blocks, sexuality and power blocks that affected their money, their relationships, uh, and their work. And so I started studying sexuality in 2012. And in 2019, that's when I took my first coaching course and really delved in, coved out with a fine tooth comb all the issues and learned how to do so many different processes with people in a coaching container to help comb that out. And so my process today is just continue to deepen coaching with energy work, because a lot of times things are ancestral. A lot of things are from our past before this life, and whatever
Right.
that is and looks like for people. But it does affect us. And whether that's just an imprint that we learned from, okay, but it's really narrating our story for us. And so I found coaching to be the most empowering way to give people tools so that they can effectively do this change work within themselves. There are a lot of things that are super helpful to be done with another person, because most often we're wounded by our
Yes.
interactions with other people, and we actually heal more fully and definitely more supportively, and I think even faster when we have someone else's support. And so it's a lot of these things. I try to put a lot of free stuff on my site, and I provide a lot of really low cost um, tons of meditations and energy work sessions for people so they have access Because
That's
sometimes,
wonderful.
especially when you're in the thick of things, you can't think clearly because you're in trauma response and you're hurting. And when we're hurting, we don't think the most logically, like
Oh,
nothing goes through the cerebral cortex anymore. It's just bypassing, going straight to our limbic system. And we're just like, I don't know what to do. So I have a lot of those resources. And then, yeah, working with people, everyone has the power within themselves to heal, to accomplish and experience their dreams and desires. And, help people who want that extra support to make it faster. And not that things have to be faster, but when we're telling the same story for over a decade, I think, let's switch the story quickly and tell a new story and get aligned, because it's so, yes, it's strengthening and really builds us up if we're working against ourselves and we're cracking out of egg after egg after egg. But
yes.
there's such an easy way to just get all aligned, and all of the things that, rather than fighting us, we get aligned and we work together. Oh, it's juicy. Oh, it's good. And
Yeah.
it's so fast, right? Because we're not,
It's
all
like,
of a sudden, all that power that was here is now going, woo, bringing this to manifestation and experiencing things and just really being in alignment. And it is such a huge, what the words really are, but a satisfying integration, and really the community, because we all know how good community feels outside of ourselves, but when we embrace our inner community and all of our parts are talking to each other and working together,
everything.
mm, it's so good and fulfilling, and you get that deep sense of safety and belonging and love that you've been seeking in all the wrong places before.
So it's like body, mind, soul all together,
Yes,
basically.
and oftentimes we come in with a predisposition for one method or the other. Like sometimes people are just naturally in their bodies. Some people are naturally out of their bodies. And some people are just like, whatever. And so the approaches that I uses the body up approach, the mental down approach, and the side to side. A lot of contemplation and meditation can really serve those side angles that aren't getting reached any other way. And everyone tends to have issues in all those directions, and so working it from the three different angles is useful for everyone. But yeah, there's usually one that we're really good at. Like I could meditate all day, but I don't get a lot done in life when I'm just
Well, I was gonna
meditating.
say you could meditate
But it's
all day,
fun.
but there's stuff to do.
Yeah. And even, monks and nuns in meditative communities, like they're working most of the day. They don't just get to meditate all day. Like they're cleaning, making clothes, cooking, all the things.
Making other stuff, they're doing other things, and yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine meditating all day. That's gotta feel like, I don't know, how would you feel? Like how, like, I think the longest I've meditated was an hour or 45 minutes, but not more than that. I can't imagine more than that. That would be like super amazing. Have you ever tried to meditate for more than an hour?
Well, yeah, especially when I was bedridden.
Okay.
There's not much else to do. But now that my body is healthy and vibrant, like I don't like to sit or hold still longer than necessary. And my body loves movement. And we all know how healthy circulating the lymphatic system is for us. Take out the trash and
Oh,
get the
yes.
body moving. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary or necessarily good for us to just sit, but there's a lot of ways to do moving meditations, and to be intentional, even in just what we're doing throughout the day, is a form in itself.
In a form of itself. But take us back. What made you choose this path? What triggered it? Like, take us back in the past. How was your childhood?
So childhood was rough. And at 9, I was like, I'm out of here. This sucks. And I was about to just get detailed process to accomplish that. I had many resources at my disposal. But I just had a thought like, what if this religion that my family was into, what if it's true? I'm like, would that be something to stay for? And it was a pretty magical religion, had a lot of cool things, and it meant that miracles could happen. And so I looked into it and I explored that possibility. Just, I could always go back to plan A if this didn't work out. And not necessarily an answer to my prayer if this religion was true, but I just kind of got a, it is. And I thought that was a really interesting response. It was different than what I had heard anyone else say when they would bear their testimony in church. But, looking back now, I'm like, that was a great answer for either my future self or my higher self or any guardians to tell me, here's how you're going to stay alive, but without actually lying to me. But when I got that hit, like, it is, I'm like, well, I'm taking that as a green light to go this route. So I abandoned the suicide attempt and dove headlong, deeply, fully into religion. And I was so zealous, so zealous, which brings me to the things that brought me to being bedridden.
Okay.
And all the perfectionism and overdoing it and never being good enough as I am, having to earn love, earn my worth, prove my worth. All of that compiled to that bedridden state where I was living a life that was not my own, but was what was expected of me as an upstanding member in my religion and what my culture valued. From there, when I got into energy work and then learning all these things and seeing all these things, I completed my time with the religion. And I got to face again the things that I'd put on hold at 9. So, well, why do we want to stay alive? What is worth living for? And I'd had my whole identity stripped away when I left my religion, my culture. I also completed my marriage shortly after that. I was empty nesting. So the things that I had really identified in my life as a devout daughter of God, a wife, a mother, like those 3 pillars that I basically lived for were gone.
They were gone.
And yeah, and rebuilding my identity from there. It's shortly, and I was having some pretty serious health issues that needed to get resolved. And when I went to a program for coaching that studied sex, love, and relationships, and that really started to clear up a lot of my health issues because they were related to a lot of the trauma that I'd experienced. And so clearing out all the traumatic abuse that my body held so diligently for me when I was in a safe space and ready to process those things. That was the container. And I look back at the time I was working over 50 hours a week.
How old were you when you were working
I
50
was
hours a week?
41.
Wow.
When I was 42 when I went to the program. But so yeah, it was just combing through all those stories, all those conditionings, all the places where, because of my beliefs, my body had wound up the energy. And when energy's stagnant and not circulating, it attracts those festering energies that like that.
Yes.
And your body decomposes when it's not circulating and alive and moving. So combing all those things out, unwinding the wound up energy, wounds are just literally wound up energy. Combing all that out, working 50 hours a week, and then I was doing 30 hours a week with this program and my own energy work clearing practices to work through everything that the program brought up. So it was an intense transformation. So that was 2019. So when 2020 hit, I was like, sweet, I can just stay home. I was
And
like,
just
the
work
world
from
shut down.
home.
Great. I've already been through all this. And so it was a really welcome time to breathe. It was a really painful time because as someone sensitive and empathic and into a lot of energy work, it was just like the thickest soup of fear I've ever had to like move through in the world. But I had so much room and space now to process all that. And then when we met through raw vegan sites,
Yes.
finding that was, I don't know if it's the last piece in my puzzle, but it was a huge support piece in my puzzle because after doing so much shadow work, so much energy work, so much ancestral work, just having my body be so clear and light and not having addiction to food where I was exploiting food. I was expecting it to be my mother. I was expecting it to be my lover. I was expecting it to be my entertainment. It was like food now was just nurtures my body, it supports
Mm,
it. But like all of my needs are now met from very clearly within. It's not something I could see before experiencing it. Like on the other side of having my body so clear and supported, that's when you say like, wow, I was really using food for reasons it wasn't meant to be used for, nor was it
exactly.
capable of being used for in those ways. And no wonder my body got distorted, and issues arose. And so having just a very clear and energetic, supportive body, yeah, you can process so much more. Things don't bother me. All those inner voices that used to weigh me down and tear at me, like they don't exist anymore because they were actually inside my microbiome. And so like having that supportive microbiome now rather than one that's fighting me. And we're more microbiome than us. Like we're 30 trillion
That's so
cells
true.
make up our body and 38 trillion cells of microbiome. So when you have, the majority of what's inside of you on your side and working supportively with you, it's a huge boost. So yeah,
Wow.
that's that journey in a nutshell.
It's because so basically around 9 years old, you started seeing that where you were at was not working for you, basically at
Yeah.
such a young
I
age.
was so done with this life at 9.
Wow, 9 years old. That's amazing because most people sometimes they realize it maybe in their late teens or early 20s, but at such a young age, that's incredible. And I'm guessing with the food, it was a way for you to numb the pain back then, right? Just trauma, and because you didn't resonate with that religion too. Was that it as well with the food?
Yeah, food was a great way, especially because I was so energetically sensitive. Because
Yeah.
when I after being bedridden for a year and coming back into my body, and it was so acutely painful. All of my gifts that I had suppressed in my life, that my religion had told me weren't allowed, that my mom had told me I was just making up in my head, like all of those gifts were alive and loud. So I was super
Okay.
sensitive to everything. And so eating was also a way as a defense. Didn't list that one, but food was my protector. If I had enough body weight, it would slow down all the energy waves from everywhere else, and I had a buffer. And then there's the whole security of, just not having to deal with stuff because you can stuff it down literally.
Yeah, it suppresses. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And then your focus is on like, how do I digest this cheese, rather than how do I let this feeling flow through me and, work in a mature, securely attached manner in this relationship.
Oh my God, that's incredible. We have so much similarities with our religion. Yours was Mormon, right? Mormon?
Yeah, I was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I grew up in it. I had several generations in it. And yeah, that was the culture, that was the way of being.
So when you broke out of it, was there any conflicts with because you felt your calling basically, but was there any conflicts around you saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you leaving? Like, why you're not doing
Yeah,
like
there
us
there
anymore?"
needed to be quite the buildup to leave because it's all I knew. It's all my cultural and family knew. Um, and I didn't listen to anything else because, like I said, I was zealous. It was my reason for being alive. Like it had to be true and real and the one thing. If it wasn't, what business did I have existing on the planet? So could block out a lot of cognitive dissonance and things that didn't resonate. But as I was healing and the more work I did energetically and with all the interdimensional beings that are here, things just didn't really make sense. Emotionally, I was feeling like the church uh, made me foster a very codependent relationship
Of
with
course.
with the leaders, with deities. And that, I just like, how do you not be in the drama triangle if you're feeling like a victim all the time and you have to have a savior? And this isn't to discredit Christ to
No, of
anyone or
course not.
discredit religion. It was something I needed in my life, and I believe it served me beautifully. It kept me alive until I was ready to look at things and face them on my own.
I get it.
And I don't think everyone needs to go through that process to claim their own sovereignty and to have a healthy relationship with whatever the name of deity is for them. But for me, that started to not make sense and started to crack the limitations that I had, the stories that were limiting my growth. And from there's some other things that just started to just not resonate, not make sense. It wasn't what I was experiencing as I was doing energy work. And then I had repressed memories really flush up. I'd
Oh,
been
wow.
uncovering things and doing that, but those came up and they'd been coming up for years. But the last one was kind of like, okay, you're good. It can all come up and out now. And at that point, I was like not functioning. So I just took 3 days in like a cocoon state where I just kind of re-felt and experienced everything because I hadn't felt and experienced it when it originally happened. I'd left my body. But
Yes, of
now that I
course.
was all in my body and it's coming up, it was time to experience that. So that was so all encompassing for me that, yeah, shut down for 3 days. And which is an interesting Bible term, right? Like there were 3 days and 3 nights where
Of
I was
course,
just
yeah, it's true.
in a death state. And when I came up and out of that and was able to start interacting, like I couldn't really talk much. I could paint. And I had to paint a lot of feelings out.
Painting is good.
And I couldn't go out and be around crowds. I didn't feel safe. I remember it being hot midsummer, and I'm like, I will have my hood on. I have long sleeves, long pants. It's just like
Wow.
extra coverings. And it was just a really like my body was so raw from going through all those feels. And at that point, I had to take a step back from my religion because they have you volunteering anywhere from 5 to 40 hours a week in the callings that I had. Some callings aren't that intensive, but most of them take a lot of time. And that's volunteering your talents for the church and your community. And you're happy to do it because you love these people. They're your
Okay.
neighbors, that you help each other out when you're sick. It was a beautiful support system.
Okay.
And but I had to take I can't function in social settings right now.
Sorry,
So
I'm just
I
plugging
asked to be
my
released,
computer. All right.
and you don't ask to be released from your calling. So that was a huge thing, but like I literally could not function. So I asked to be released. So I didn't drop the ball for anything. And I worked with the teenage girls. And it's like I can't take them to girls' camp. Like I can't function.
All
And so
right.
it's like I got out of that and not spending all of that time being so busy because I already was taking care of my family. I was running a business. I had a yoga studio and I was doing energy work and doing my online clients. And like, I don't have any time for this. Um, and then with those memories coming up and effectively just kind of shutting me down, just shut everything down. I had time to think and feel and process because I wasn't so busy with everything else. And so processing all of those things, I started thinking about things. I started doing uh, other, like reading things that weren't scriptures that made me feel good because the scriptures weren't making me feel good at the time. They were really kind of scary. There was
Oh, okay.
atrocious things that were happening in them.
Of
And they
course.
were very
I get it.
addictive. I'm like, I need something softer
Yeah,
and more loving.
of course.
Um, And so I was nurturing myself that way. And there was one point where I was feeling bad that I wasn't going to church. I'm like, I should do something churchy. So a friend had posted on Facebook this Mormon Stories podcast. It was about a woman who was so faithful, but she was with a less active spouse. And I was in that situation. I always felt bad for my spouse because I knew I sort of looked down on him for not being as active and zealous and, um,
Of course.
gung ho for God like I was. And so I watched the show, and it was about a woman who went from being as zealous as I was to having her faith completely dismantled within 2 hours, all from reading this one document. I'm like,
2 hours?
what?
What?
There's no way. What is this that she read? And I read that. And I read that much slower than 2.5 hours. I read it really painstakingly long. Each person who had found something, I studied them. I watched 5-hour interviews with them. I judged their character. I viewed them energetically. and delved into all the things and all the levels and all the areas. And so for 3 months, it was this obsessive, wow, is this real? Because you keep yourself very secluded. You don't look at outside information. It's considered unloyal, disloyal, unfaithful.
Okay.
And I wouldn't probably have looked into us, but the church had published on their own website um, essays. They were very whitewashed and very like marketing. We want you to think this way,
Oh, wow.
presented kind of way. But they acknowledged that these things had some validity and they kept the footnotes in there. So I dug up all those references and realizing like, oh, wow, these aren't just blatant lies. That's what gave me permission to study so in depthly and studied. And 3 months later, I'm like, this just isn't true like the way they told me it was true. And because of the integrity that I developed from being in this religion for 40 years, I can no longer be aligned and coherent with myself by staying a member of it. I don't think everyone is that black and white. I don't think everyone needs to be that black and white. I don't think it's not
I
the
know.
healthiest times, but for me, that's how it was. And for the work that I do and the energetic integrity that I do in the space that I hold for my clients, like I can't do my work or progress as a being by being associated with this anymore.
Because they don't resonate together. Eh, they don't,
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't anymore. And so I stayed in my marriage for a year to see if that was still something that was um, doable and good for me, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because in my belief system, you had to stay married in order to get to God. And so I put up with a lot of shit
Mm.
because that was the only way I could be with God, is by staying with this person. And so with that gag order released, I'm like, let's reevaluate this marriage, see if it can be healthy. And we were high school sweethearts. We raised each other. We'd been through a lot, but it just wasn't a dynamic that I could be in and have it be supportive. And so, that big blow up from there happened. And family, my family's still very involved. Like my kids wouldn't really talk to me. They thought I was crazy
Oh, no.
because
Okay.
when you raise your kids in the Hitler Youth and then you leave the Nazi party, they're like, you're a traitor. You have no worth or value, and we can't trust your insight. So
Wow.
that those relationships went through a death and rebirth as well. And then my extended family, the ones who were not active in the church or who had left previously, they were accepting, but it was
They
a lot of
welcomed
like, I
you.
told you so. It wasn't even like a good connection time. It was like, I told you so, you're such an idiot for believing. And
Oh,
I'm like,
gosh.
well, maybe those relationships were never meant to be. But
Yeah.
those are still healing. And then my family that is still very active in the church, I went from being someone who was highly respected and valued to kind of being the pariah. Like, we don't know what to make of you,
You're just
and we're
like,
not going to give anything you say any
yeah.
creed. And so that hurts that's there, but they are still there for me. They would, they take me in,
They
they
still
love me the
respect
best they
you.
can, but
Yeah.
those beliefs do put a barrier in. And most of my friends left, all these people I'd served over the years in the community. It's like just not able to be close, or they just stopped talking to me. And so it's like, that my friends and acquaintances went from maybe a mile wide to maybe an inch
Just,
wide, but
yeah.
they're now a mile deep instead of the more superficial relationships I had with so many people.
It's unfortunate now, the battle of the fates, basically. That's what I call it. The battle of the beliefs. It's funny
Yeah,
because,
'cause if
yeah,
if you don't feel safe with someone, you don't feel safe. And if it's your story, you
exactly.
can't be safe by hearing what they have to say or sharing or connecting. That's just going to be how it is.
It's
And
just
so, yeah, it's
unfortunate that we have
valid.
to get against each other because of that, right? Now they don't
Yeah,
talk to you.
it,
They
it
lost a
would
lot of
be so
friends.
much more ideal to value differences, have open
Yeah,
mind,
that's
let
right.
people live their way and for things to just all be consensual, right? Like, you don't invade my space.
Yes,
We treat each other with respect. We value each other's stories, for that's the way life is and reality is for you. And that's okay.
yeah,
Like, it's all okay. It's all welcome.
exactly. You weren't told that you were going to go to hell, right? By choosing this path. Well, you
Oh
told
yeah.
okay, yeah, can't relate. Hey,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
projecting
You
on me.
know, yeah, girlfriends, even who had been with me through a lot of things and who were into energy work and, saw things deeper than most, they were still, when they saw me afterwards, they were like, oh, wow, you still have light in your eyes. Like they thought I would just be this dead, dark
Oh my God.
entity now. I was just like, still me, maybe even a little
Yeah.
better me.
So basically, all of this
But,
made you really stronger than having to lose a lot of people that were the same religion as you to now starting your own path. Like, were you depressed at one point? Like, oh my God, they don't want to be part of my life anymore because I chose this path. Like, how did you feel mentally?
mentally, I felt very unsupported. And especially because I had just yeah, detonated a bomb in the nest that I'd spent 20 years building and holding together. And so, yeah, there's a definite reconfiguration, calibration into myself and healing. And I handle most depression or apathetic lulls by studying something cool that lights me up. And so by finding the coaching program that I did, uh, that just it brought so much more resources and understanding into myself
Yeah,
and
let's
why I
hear more
felt the way
about
I
it. Your
did
coaching
was
program.
processing.
Yes.
So that yeah, that was with Layla Martin, and it's a Vita coaching. It used to be the Tantric Institute of Integrated Studies, but now I don't remember what Vita stands for because she changed it mid-year. But there was a lot of internal family systems work, parts work, and there was a level of acceptance and tolerance and understanding, and even applauding. Like, of course you felt scared. That makes so much sense. And being able to talk with myself and reparent myself, and again, like be the open-minded person that I'd wish I'd encountered, amongst
A
all
long
my
time
friends,
ago. Yeah.
acquaintances, and family,
Yeah.
that could just hold me, know that I'm, but I was just able to do it for myself. I was able to create community and connect every part of myself with myself. And that brought in that level of love, safety, support that I'd been seeking. And, cultivating that new sense of belonging, that's something I still cultivate. And I've learned to just start creating it wherever I go and whatever I do and in all my ways. So even if I'm just going to the grocery store, I'm like, hey people, and it can just be a connective energy, and it goes along, to creating a community. I attract all the people I can to work in my community of just being embodied and sovereign. And so it's like I couldn't really find everything I wanted in other places, so created my own, and it's such a work of love. And just like your community that you've created is such a haven of acceptance and belonging
Yeah.
and encouragement to work through the things that you're facing.
I truly love that because I feel like we need more of that in this world, what you're doing as well. Because there's too much division amongst each other because of what we practice and how we share our message. And I'm like, why are we divided? We should all be united together. It doesn't matter what faith we have. We should all respect one another and share that movement together instead of, you know, projecting on each other.
I'll get a few things people aren't ready for, and that's okay. I totally honor and respect that. Everyone gets to be where they are.
Of course.
Um, but I think a lot of it just stems if we have parts in ourselves that we still shame. And from 0 to 7 years old, everything just went straight in. Like we were completely programmable. So if we got a or a or a you
Eh,
know we internalized it directly, no filters, no barriers. And whatever we were doing at the time, that part of us, most likely a very spunky, spontaneous, curious, adventurous, full of life, energy, and power part of ourselves got, you know, tucked away, put down, and worst case scenario, locked in a dungeon. So like those are the parts of us. I found that people who are still very shaming or not open to different ways of looking at things and collaborating, or just, understanding, they often have a lot of parts themselves, and usually the best parts of themselves, their most authentic, wild child, life
Exactly.
zestfully loving parts of themselves are put down, and it's painful, and it takes a lot of
Yes.
energy to keep them contained and imprisoned. And maybe they'll be as fortunate as me and break down, like not be able to sustain that energy anymore, and that, liberate the captives that you know, they've taken them as a way to survive. Because if they didn't lock those parts of themselves away, they would have been shunned in their community. They would have been punished. Like, everything we've all done has been to survive. And it's been brilliant, especially as little kids with, the resources available to us. What a great way to survive and to make it through. And, with love, and with us radiating a sense of support, a sense of love and safety, like, they can be introduced to those safe templates and safe frequencies where they can start to unpack, and undo the shame and the control mechanisms that they've endured, where they can just bring more of themselves that allows them to be in circulation and part of their lives. If they don't, like, wherever they have those parts of themselves stashed, that's where they attract injuries and illnesses.
Oh, illnesses,
And
yes.
when we work through those, usually our body brings it to our attention, like, listen, there's something here that needs your attention.
Oh, yes.
Um, and that brings the best part of ourselves to the forefront. When you've been through a serious injury or illness, there's a big part of you that's like, I don't give a fuck about this, about what anyone thinks. Like, I want to enjoy life, and I don't enjoy living it like I was told I had to live it. So it's like, it
Yep.
brings part of your wild child back to life, back to back in circulation, and you're allowed to live and freely circulate yourself and your life force energy.
That's pretty good. Oh, man. I love what you just said. And I guess that's gonna be with that information, I think that's you're gonna be able to answer Cecilia's question. She had one for you. It was saying, what is a fast daily exercise you recommend to become centered and tap into your inner goddess?
Ooh, I love that, Cecilia. Thank you. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
Everything can become fast with practice. My go-to, I have a lot of go-tos, but I think the best for this situation would be to, I tune into my spine, which is our big energy hub. Um, if we work with our nervous system and learn how to regulate it, and especially our polyvagal nerve, our vagus nerve, oh, we have access to everything, right? It's the inner control hub. So I tune into my spine, and symbolically that lets me know that I have my own back. Like, I've got myself. And I will run my energy, just my awareness. And you can just pretend or imagine. All works the same and completely valid. I'll just run my awareness down my back to my tailbone, and I'll connect with the core of the earth frequencies from my tailbone. For some reason, I guess it's more cat energy in me than tree, but that always makes me feel hooked in and connected more than growing roots on my feet. But I will grow roots on my feet too. But I'll just connect with the core of the earth program, just secure connection. Just for me, it's just me and my own inner mama, Mother Earth
Being a
tribe.
mama. Yes.
I'm like, I'm the only kid. I'm getting all of her attention, whatever it needs to be. But just feeling her support, like, it is so accepting, that frequency at the core of the earth. So it's just full of acceptance. Like, no matter what you do, you are just fine. Like, there's no judgments whatsoever. And it's so full of life force energy and vitality.
Yes.
And so I'll just let that energy just soak up all the way through me. And I'll just feel so alive and supported, and just so nurtured and so loved and rejuvenated and restored. Like, it's just such yummy energy. And then when I'm just saturated, like, then I'll just really tune into my connection with my higher self, or pure source, from which you originated. And I will just allow that zoomed out energy. So it's big picture. It's like not taking anything too seriously because there's all these other pieces and dimensions to factor in. So with that zoomed out map energy of like, oh yeah, come down here and play. Come down here
Yes.
and interact. I'll just let that come down. And then realize what a unique frequency I am of these two incredible support and power sources, and that are expressed in my body and my frequency, which is unique to the planet. Like I'm the only expression of me. And so this beautiful synergy of energy from above and below swirls around in me in a way like no other, and I can just radiate that to the world. And this vertical connection, I think, is the most powerful and empowering we can align to. One, it makes literally aligns our spine, but it's also we're not seeking from other people or places or things from outside of us to fill that
Mm.
void, to meet our needs, or to make us happy. We're like, we've got above and below. Between above and below, there is every single possible frequency you could want to experience or that you could need in life. You can tune into that particular frequency. Maybe you need to be filled up with love more. Maybe you need security more or radiance, whatever it is. You can amplify, you just focus in on that frequency, amplify it, fills you up, fills up your energy field. You will just be radiating that like a tuning fork to everyone around you. And you have exactly what you need. That tends to call in similar frequencies. They'll start
That's
coming
right.
your way. And so just starting within, it shifts everything without. And it just feels so good. I don't think we need to be completely, you know, isolated, self-independent. But when we are fully able to care for ourselves and cultivate the energetic states that we desire from, oh, well, if I had this, then I could feel this. No, that's backwards. We cultivate that energy state within, and then we're able to go synergistically collaborate with the world and dance in our relationships and have so much fun together. And I think that's what really helps makes it being fun to be in our bodies. When our bodies feel so supported, have every nutritional aspect,
Yeah.
energetically, every frequency they could possibly want or need. When we feel so supported above and below, we feel held, we're ready to go play. And then our horizontal interactions are just fun, playful, full of life, and we get to have a hoot. Feels good to be in our body, feels good to
Yeah.
interact with the world. So
I
yeah,
can see the
that'd
inner
be my
child in you.
yeah, that'd be
Yes.
my short 5 minute practice. And I think I even kept it under 5 minutes describing it. But yeah, if you want to tune into that, makes it really nice and fun. And I have a free offering if you want at my website. You can sign up, and there's practice that will help take you through. I'm trying to think if I do those practices on there. I usually do that practice to the beginning of almost everything I do. So it's likely in there. If not, feel free to message me. I'll hook you up with something.
Oh yeah, because I'm definitely gonna share that with everybody where they can see your they can sign up for your freebie video so they can experience that. I'm definitely gonna
Yeah.
share that.
Yeah, I compiled 3 videos of I think are the most core essential practices. So even if you never work with me, like this can give you everything you want. They're not necessarily sexy. They take some work, but if you do them, oh, they will revolutionize your life, your energy, and just make it so much more enjoyable to be here.
So what's a typical day for you then? Do you wake up and you start doing the energy work on yourself, or do you go straight to work, or what is a typical day for you?
My dream day and my typical day, because I do live my dream lifestyle, but I
Yes.
wake up on my own. I love not having an alarm. And even if you have to wake up
Oh,
at a
no
certain time, you can
alarm.
tell your body to wake up a few minutes before, and then your body will naturally regulate your circadian rhythm and your brainwave states to be rising and going into alpha on the way up, before your alarm goes off, because it can be very disruptive to get jerked out of a relaxed state.
It's so
So
true.
so know that you can program yourself. If you do have to wake up with an alarm, you can program. Just tell your body to do it. Our bodies are so amazing. And I start with some meditative practices. where I'm tuning into my body. I'm processing any messages from my dream state. And my dream states tend to be pretty active. So I am
Vivid.
often calling back my energy and giving back any energy I tend to have interacted with, and making sure all of my energetic hygiene is in place. So just to set that. So when we're sleeping, it's a time where we can easily be fooled. So a lot of times I've noticed, like, I agreed to something because I was tired that I would never if I were awake. So it's like
Of
I
course.
just kind of set that precedence. Do I have any energy that's not mine? Well, there you go. Blessed and transmuted and back to you. You know,
You send back the energy
any
to that person.
all of
Yeah.
mine. Is there
Yeah.
any of me missing? Yes, there is. Come on back, baby. Blessed and transmuted, dripping in divine love. And and then I'll go for a walk with my dog and go at sunrise. And so I just love seeing the colors in the sky. It's so magical. Just have time with the sky. And then I get going on my work. I'll do anything else I need to do. And then I typically start my sessions with clients around 11 and then work until 5. And then I close up, clear off, make sure everything's still very energy uh, clean. And I typically read or I'll play with whatever family members around. And I teach yoga as well. So
Yes.
whether that's teaching that in the morning or afternoon that day, or yeah, that's a pretty typical day. Thrown in with intermixed with some yummy juices or smoothies
That's what I was gonna ask.
and a
Your daily
salad.
routine with your diet, basically, your lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, eating raw vegan has, ironically enough, uh, made eating so much easier and faster and quicker. And I'm a lot more attentional with it. So, yeah, that makes it even easier and faster.
And you prefer
And
simple meals, right?
yeah, I do. I do very simple right now. Every now and then I want more flavor, and I can find that. But yeah, I am so much more content with less. There's a bit of an emptiness at the end of the day that I used to not have. So there's like no digestive issues, so that's a loss that I welcome. But even, not having that feels so much lighter. And that emptiness where I used to feel like, oh, I must be hungry. I need to fill that emptiness. Now it's just like honored. The emptiness is an honored, welcome space, just kind of like a clear table where there's no decorations on it. Just like, so
Mm.
functional, like, a blank canvas ready to be painted on. And yeah, I've just gotten to where that feels really good. And it's kind of a space where issues can come up and be dealt with immediately, which I enjoy more. It's a lot faster than dealing with things that you've suppressed for 40 years. But, it's it creates a nice empty space where you can think and feel clear and rejuvenated. And yeah, it's just such a huge support, this eating lifestyle like that.
And you see a difference though with your old lifestyle before becoming raw vegan with your spirituality? Is there a difference?
Funny enough, my intuition and things that I would see were always on point for other people. I figured it was just because I had some more trauma to clear out, where that just
Yeah.
was a little more muddled in mine, whether I was just charged or triggered or had judgments or beliefs or things that I thought should be a certain way. Once I started eating raw vegan, my own intuition for myself and my life was just as good as for everybody else's as it is for everyone else's. So that was fun. And I'm processing relationship triggers much quicker. Things don't bother me as much. I have a wider window of tolerance. My range of resilience has increased
You're more
just because
calm.
I don't have all the inner turmoil
Yeah.
of a microbiome that likes acidity and pathogens. And having this alkaline environment that's really supportive and empowering. So there's less brain fog, there's less chatter, going
Less
on that I
chatter.
thought was in
Yeah.
my head or from outside of me, but was really like, oh, that was literally our microbiome. Holy shit. Yeah, it's just there's more space. There's more space. So I feel so much more expanded. Literally, like, my body's not bloated and full of toxins. It's
Mm,
empty. It is highly processing. It can process things really quickly now. And that in turn really assists the emotional processing. Things aren't bloated anymore. Things aren't stuck and stagnant and staying longer than they need.
that's right. Okay. And what about, are you able to to see the difference between the higher self talking to you and the ego self? Like, can you see the difference with what you're feeling with between the two sides? Like when you hear your own voice.
So a lot of the ego voice for me were my pathogens and an angry microbiome.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That was a lot of ego stuff. But what's left, yeah, I can call it out much easier, much quicker. Like, oh, you're projecting that on your significant other, and he just reflected that right back to you, and you're triggered because it's an issue. Whereas
Okay.
before, I could have stayed defensive or like tried to explain my point of view. I could have said all the right things and still like been radiating scorn.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like I can see my own stories quicker. Like, oh
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't be triggered unless I was still running that. So thank you for pointing that out for me. I'm gonna go meditate on that and defrag, and I'll get back to you, probably with a very sincere apology.
That's the best way to say it. Yeah, I love that. Keep staying calm and just saying, okay, thank you, but yeah, I'll reflect on it, and yeah, I like that. No anger, you don't like, okay, well, that was really mean what you say, and then you just stay calm pretty much most of the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get frustrated, but before I just used to get super angry. So just getting frustrated, it's just kind of like a mild irritation. Like, you know, you get a sliver in your finger and yeah, it's a hassle. You pull it out, but it's not like, oh no, I gotta chop my finger off. So yeah, it's something that gets your attention, and great. I'm so glad I was aware that this sliver was there. And now I can go take it out.
That's right. Exactly. And how do you protect your energy though? Have you ever felt like your energy was attacked, or if you go somewhere, if you have to go to a certain place, do you do any of this goddess energy on yourself before you head to a certain place, a building, or I don't know, grocery store?
You know, that's a great practice to do if you're super sensitive to energies and being in around people bothers you.
Oh, I am.
If you fill up with yourself and your own energies, you have that above and below support, there isn't room for anybody else's. And I found that to be the most effective because I used to try to do every sort of shield. What I found now, and I still have boundaries and borders, but it's my own inner essence. It blocks out anything that's not compatible. It transmutes anything that's of a lower frequency. So that just happens naturally, and very similar to how when we create an alkaline environment in our body,
Mm,
it naturally expels anything that does not thrive in an alkaline system.
100% agree. That's true. Yes.
So yeah, that works really beautifully. And what I found is that when I had significantly less issues once I was eating raw vegan because I was no longer participating in torture culture of beings that we're here to take care of. So, and I was vegetarian for decades. After I was bedridden, I
Mm.
couldn't eat. I couldn't eat meat because I got transported to a slaughterhouse on a bite of a hamburger.
Oof.
So like I'd been vegetarian for a while, but even like, cheese, they don't necessarily take good care of the dairy farm, the dairy cows. Um, and we, atrocious images of chickens being caged. It's just like not having the animal DNA in my body and not being part of a culture or practice that condones anything but the most revered treatment of these animals has made me kind of like nothing can stick to me anymore. Nothing can hook in and snag me. And if anything does get through or bother me, I found it's an unhealed part of myself
There you
in
go.
some aspect or way, whether they took some of my energy or they copied it when I gave it out before. It's some part of me that needs to be healed, transmuted, dissolved, whatever. And I just go through a process to clear that and align everything to where it needs to be with my higher self.
Put your higher self. That's beautiful. Yeah, I kind of I feel that way too. I feel like the more I merge with my higher self just by eating what I'm doing, like eating mostly raw right now and fruits, the energy is different and I feel way connected to my higher self. That side of me is more present. It's like that's all I hear. Of course, sometimes when my energy is low, if my energy is low, it's because there's still some unfinished trauma that I didn't deal with. And then that voice, that ego voice, I call it the treaty voice, comes back full on. And then I can see the difference, but it's like my higher self steps in and automatically shuts down that treaty self, that treaty self. It's like it's getting easier for me to control it and see it and also release my traumas. So yes, it we can see the difference with the alkalinity of food, right? What we
Yeah.
put in our bodies. It's incredible, huh?
Yeah. And for me, I see it as such an easy way to support ourselves. Like it's just what you're
Yeah.
eating. And we take into account like all the cravings and desires and pulls that people are trying to combat to do that. But I had not felt I hadn't felt whether it was just all the shadow work I'd done or all the energy work I'd done. It was just for me, the switching over was just complete support, like that last piece of the puzzle, boop, snapped in, and it's like,
Nope.
oh, everything's like 100 times easier.
Yes.
Feel supported. Everything can just run on through. Um, and so for me, it just seems like, oh, you don't have to study all this energy work. You don't have to like do all this painful shadow work, but I guess you do one way or another,
Well,
whether it comes up as cravings or
yeah, that's so true.
different things. But yeah, I've found it a very important part of the process and a super amazing way to care for and nurture our bodies. They're a big part of this process
That's
and
right.
such a big contributor to our emotional bodies, which makes life passionate and colorful and worth living.
Yes.
So what a way to enhance that by even just having more colorful food,
I totally agree. And I know the other day you were telling me about the raw crackers. I found some. Yeah. So I
Yummy
can't wait.
stuff, huh?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Living spoonfuls, everyone. Great
Yes.
cracker to get that crunch and that salty flavor
Oh
hit
yes.
that you may need.
Yum. Perfect. And I wanted to hear more about you were saying that you're also about the sexuality part you were mentioning. Uh,
Mhm.
that's a different type of work, right? Is it? Yeah.
Usually it comes up with I do it with my one-on-one clients, um, just so that I can hold everyone's triggers. But sexuality is such a huge part of us, and it's our power center. So as we are owning more and more of our power, those things will come up. And we stash a lot in our reproductive organs because they can expand so beautifully, but we stash a lot there, and so it impedes our power. So as we start doing these more empowering lifestyle practices, we get access to more power, and then these things that are attached to our power come up. A lot of times they're sexual because it's just the instant place for something to go harness our energy. We'll just go and attack and shut down or maim, but it will oftentimes siphon our power off with it. So any sexuality work, we have so much cultural conditioning that's sex negative,
Yes.
power negative. So they go hand in hand. And any awakening, any healing journey is going to bring more power into our lives. Now, most of us have experienced people with more power than us using that power negatively. And so learning how to trust ourselves, learning that, to dismantle, unwind the stories where we'll become the Hulk and these monsters that destroy things with all this newfound power that we don't know how to use yet. It's learning how to trust ourselves, to work with ourselves so that this unflowering, this blooming of our power can be beautiful, rich, and enjoyable. And most of the time, pleasure is also shunned and shut down with power.
Yeah.
But as women, we have an organ solely dedicated to just pleasure. It has 8,000 nerve endings
Oh,
with
wow.
just one purpose. And even just thinking about, that's our clitoris, even just thinking about our clitoris, that can expand your energy, that can bring in power, and it can bring in pleasure. Now, if you have stories that pleasure's wrong, I haven't worked hard enough to experience pleasure, we'll shut that down. If we are scared of power because we've experienced someone's rage, we'll shut down that power. We'll shut down that energy. And anytime we've been powerful ourselves, or the powerful part of us, the innocent sexual being, will often shut them down in the dungeon too, so that we don't get hurt, we don't get in trouble, we don't get kicked out of our tribe. So in empowerment work, sexuality really comes to the forefront. And I've studied men's and women's,
Oh,
and
wow.
it is bringing so much acceptance and love to our sexual organs, our power organs, and they have so much to offer life. And as we learn how to hone the power and use it masterfully, that's really, I think, a big part of everything we're doing here, is learning how to use power benefically. It can be like a chainsaw, it can do quick work for the wood pile, or it could really inflict some harm on things it's not meant for. So it's just learning how to use power, learning how to be in pleasure, that it's okay, dismantling all these stories that pleasure's wrong, that power's wrong. And even that,
Yeah.
dismantling, we're instinctively wired to avoid pain, to move away from it and cling to pleasure. And we'll do a lot of mental gymnastics to make it okay with our theologies or how we were raised, so that we can still consider ourselves good people. But what we're dismantling when we deconstruct all of our stories is that we can just seek for truth, and we can welcome truth, whatever it may be. We don't have to cling to pleasure. We don't have to be pushing away pain all the time. We can just experience truth for whatever it is, and we can let pain wash through us. We can let pleasure wash through us, and we can be okay regardless of what's going on.
That's beautiful. Oh man, I felt goosebumps when you were saying this, because I feel like I have a lot of blockage when it comes to sexuality. And just you saying that, it kind of gave me a like some hope. I'm definitely gonna be working with you for sure for that, because I totally need it. I have some
It'll be
blockage
lovely. I'd
myself.
love to support you in that.
Oh yeah, and because I know which area of my body it is affected. Like, yeah, the sacral chakra is one of them. The root chakra though is, I feel like I'm more into like, as you notice, I'm really into red. And I kept wondering, why am I so into red lately, and then the phoenix rising started, and detox, and I feel so like in, attracted to that color red, the color red, and the phoenix orange. I'm like, oh, look at this, it's the root chakra and it's the sacral chakra, and a little bit of yellow, oh, the solar plexus. I guess it all has to do with it.
Yeah, such foundational features and areas of our body, like our literal foundation. Just because it's not our brain or our heart, doesn't make it less important. It's a foundation for us.
Foundation, that's right. Any successful stories from any of your clients? Any good things that happen?
Yeah, loads. So people often don't know how to explain what I do. Uh, and they don't really know what they're in for, but it's a transformation. So one gal, she was in her 60s and working with me, she just knew she wanted to up level her spirituality. And so we worked, and our spirituality is up leveled, not by necessarily meditating and studying things, but by getting in our bodies. And so making the body a safe place to be, a body that's full of fluids, a body that's full of sexual urges, a body that's full of needs, and to let needs and neediness, be okay, be a part of life. And the privilege that gets to be to experience those needs, to experience desires, and create beautiful things from them. And so she got to come to a place where she was so much more in her body. She was able to start, when we started, she couldn't hula hoop or belly dance whatsoever. And she got to the place where, she could do all those things.
Oh
And
my
she's
gosh.
like, there's really stuff to this. And she was able to repair her relationship with her daughter that had been kind of codependent. She kept trying to control in an effort to help. That relationship improved. She had a beautiful relationship with her offspring, another offspring, that was very challenging, that she was also able to like step back from, not be so energetically enmeshed, but be more in her energetic sovereignty, and let that relationship be what it is without being so hurt and damaged anytime something happened. And so, yeah, she found that next level that she was looking for. And then she went on to study Reiki and go into
Yeah.
drumming circles and write. And then she was repaired relationships with her siblings and was able to have process her siblings transition. And, she's just had this beautiful life that she could show up more fully for and enjoy even more. And I had another client who came to me specifically for sexuality stuff. Her life was just so beautiful and perfect, and very successful entrepreneur. She enjoyed what she did. She was really good at it, ran her business brilliantly, married a long time, went on fun trips. And, we were able to work through the sexuality things. She wanted to be able to orgasm energetically in addition to all the other ways. There's 7 ways we can orgasm.
Oh my
And
gosh,
there are so many ways our body can experience pleasure if we deconstruct the stories that aren't allowing us to experience pleasure. For,
Okay.
if pleasure has been not safe for us, there are all these barriers that we get to sift through, see, keep what's valid, keep what's important, discard the rest, get more aligned. But she learned how to really work the energy in her body, and she was going through some hot flashes at the time, and she learned how to work that energy. So decreased all of the hormonal issues going on with her, and became this incredible energy wielder. She could meditate, she could accept all these parts of herself, and that went on to really revolutionize her marriage and her sex life.
Oh wow.
And when she stepped into her power, I tell people I'm working with, I'm like, listen, you're going to be empowered, and you're going to really reevaluate the relationships you've been in that you've sought for power, that you've placed your power in them. And so like no revolutionizing relationships and for a year. Like just work through some stuff. And so their primary relationship, her primary relationship became even stronger, even more deep. It went through a death and a rebirth process, for the new energies and the new container that she now had for it. And yeah, and she's about to retire,
Wow.
and earlier than she thought she would ever be able to. And just watching her journey, to be able to circulate emotions, not be controlled by emotions, but be able to circulate them, be able to process them, and then to be able to work all of the sexual energy. Like our sexual energy is life force energy, and we can convert it to any other energy that we need in our body.
Hmm.
So it's this, life force energy on tap that we can cultivate at any time. And a lot of women, we get cancers or tumors or cysts
Yes.
in our genitalia, especially reproductive system and organs. And it is, they clear out when we release the energetic pattern that said, I have to overgive. I have to give to prove my worth. I have to give to earn love.
Yes.
And so all of those things. And when all of the wound up energy is released from our breasts, released from our sexual organs, then connection with another person can feel pleasurable, can feel so much better, can be such a heightened organic and ecstatic state where we can go into other realms. We can go into all these magical places
Absolutely.
that don't need any outer substances. We've got them all. We create all these inside of ourselves. And yeah, and just an owning of that power is within me. It's not another person making me feel this good or giving me money. It's like I create all of these feelings from within me.
That's right. Oh my God, such valuable information you just provided, because a lot of us, especially in my group, have some wounding, especially with
I don't think we get
men.
out of this without it.
No, exactly, right? And you do energy work with men too, you were saying as well, right?
I do. I don't have a group program for men
Mhm.
currently, but I do work one-on-one with men. And yeah,
Okay.
it's phenomenal. And it works. And you can heal up all your mother issues with a objective, loving third party, and all your relationships and any body stuff can be alleviated and worked through very quickly.
Wow. Oh my God. This is gonna be such a, no, this is gonna be amazing for me to share with the group, because uh, dealing with relationship issues, daddy issues, a lot of us have similar things, men issues. And this has been so incredible and so helpful what you just mentioned. And I can't wait to share your information as well so they can get a hold of you, work with you as well, maybe to do this energy work, especially me too. Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
thank you. I'm honored.
Yes. Um, any final words? Any final words?
Wow. Just that you are so incredible and valuable. You are a once in a lifetime experience, and your energy is so important and matters, and you're a huge boon to the planet and everyone here. So thank you for being on planet at this time. Thank you for sojourning. And it can be really fun to be on planet, to be in your body, and to just be thriving. And love to support you in any way I can, because you are precious and your expression matters.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you for coming in here. I appreciate you so much. And I can't wait to have more talks with you about this too. I think it's really important to talk more about those subjects. I think a lot of us need to hear this, a lot of women and men too, and this world needs a healing. And of course, with the sexual part of you were saying, a lot of us get suppressed. Sometimes it's because of our past fate, or people told us things like, you know, projecting their values on us and suppressing that part. And that's been really helpful. Thank you so much. And yeah, we need more of that, definitely. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
you.
very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this message.
No problem. And for everybody else, I will share her information, and you guys can also check her free video courses as well and get in touch with her. She's part of the group, so you can definitely reach out to her directly as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.